gentlemen, our distinguished guests and panelists, you are all welcome to the 12th edition of Insights webinar, a public health webinar series presented by Ehealth Africa. My name is Tahir Buhari, and I will be your host for today. I'm thrilled to be here to discuss a very important topic that affects us all, which is bridging the tech skills gap in the public health space. So as most of you, working in this industry are already aware, quality education is essential in achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And in our quest to reach this goal, it has become increasingly more important to embrace digital education. The development of technological skills, presents a tremendous opportunity for us to address public health challenges and local issues. So today we are hoping to delve into the existing gaps in bridging these tech skills and exploring the significance of what bridging these gaps will do for public health in Africa. So before we begin, I want to set the stage with some remarkable data points that will highlight the growing demand for tech talent in Africa. According to a recent Google report on the Africa developer ecosystem, the demand for African computer software developers had skyrocketed in 2021 and 2022. And this is primarily due to the global economic crisis and the impact of COVID-19. So that particular report gathered data from various African countries from Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Nigeria, Cameroon, Egypt, a host of African countries. And it revealed that the continent pool of professional developers increased by 3.8% year on year, bringing the total number of developers in Africa to 716,000 as at the end of 2021. Notably, that report also found that 38% of African developers work for at least one company based outside of the continent, indicating the growing recognition of African developers, and the talent that we have here on a global scale. Nigeria, South Africa, and Egypt emerged the leaders in software development talent when it comes to the number. Nigeria alone added an estimated 5,000 new software developers in 2021. And South Africa, of course, is the country with the leading or the highest number of software developers, about 121,000 professionals at the end of 2021, followed closely by Egypt and Nigeria, which were tied at 89,000 software developers by the end of that year. So amidst this rising demand and the talent pool that is available, organizations like Ehealth Africa, have been at the forefront of empowering young people with the necessary tech skills needed to bridge this gap. For over 5 years, Ehealth Africa has invested in designing and developing digital health solutions while also building the capacity of young people in web and software development. So through initiatives like the Ehealth Academy, which is an 8-week curriculum in software development and network engineering, Ehealth Africa has successfully trained and mentored participants, enabling them to contribute to transformative solutions in the health sector and beyond. The first cohort of the Ehealth Academy achieved a remarkable data point with 100% completion rate for all of the participants, with 3 of those graduates securing full-time positions in Ehealth Africa and other organizations, highlighting the impact of a program like that. So as we explore the importance of bridging this tech skills gap in public health today, it is essential for us to recognize the opportunities and challenges that are associated with this endeavor. This increase in the global demand for remote tech talent, amplified by the pandemic, has created more employment opportunities for African developers. However, it is crucial to address, for example, gender disparities and support for women who have faced, additional challenges really, breaking the glass or breaking, the ceiling in this case. So to shed more light on these issues, we have assembled a distinguished panel of experts who will share their insights and experiences. So please join me in welcoming our esteemed panelists. I'm really excited for the panel that we have today. I'm going to start our introductions for the panelists. So we have Motunrayo Opayinka. Motunrayo is a business transformation professional in system implementation, re-engineering, and management processes. She has over 15 years experience. She's primarily motivated by achievement and creativity. She is the CEO of Womenovate, Womenovate is an organization that provides soft skills training and particularly focuses on providing women with skills to build careers in science and the technology space. Womenovate, as at today, has over 1,200 community members. So, Motunrayo.
Thank you, Tahir. Thanks for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here once again today. Thank you.
Our next panelist is Hamza Danjaji. Hamza Danjaji is a dedicated web developer, an open source advocate, and a community manager with over 5 years of experience in the field. He has an expertise in both front and back end development with a specialty in creating dynamic and user-friendly web applications. Hamza?
All right, thank you, Tahir. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone.
The next panelist we have is Jamil Galadanchi. Jamil is an experienced computer engineer with a strong track record in the tech industry and research groups. Jamil has a diverse skill set encompassing software engineering practices, health informatics, software quality assurance, and the others. Jamil comes with a wealth of experience to the table as one of the technical leads of our internal EHA Academy and the GHI team at Ehealth Africa. So we're excited to have Jamil on the panel today as well. Jamil? Jamil, are you there?
Yeah, I think I had a network glitch because it's raining heavily over here. So thanks, Tahir. Hello, everybody.
Right, so our final panelist is Alhassan Atama. Alhassan is an experienced business analyst with a keen focus on market analysis, policy evaluation, and a drive for delivering innovative solutions. He is proficient in requirement elicitation and analysis, and has a specialty in solution assessments and wireframe prototypes. So we're also excited to have Alhassan here. Alhassan?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. Let's do this.
So thank you all for joining us today. We look forward to the valuable perspectives and expertise that each of you will bring to the discussion today. So now let us outline the objectives for our webinar today. We have 4 main goals that we're trying to achieve with this webinar. The first one is to provide a platform for open discussion, sharing of experiences, and learning from each other's perspective on fostering innovation, in public health in Africa. Then the second one is to discuss strategies and best practices for acquiring and developing tech skills in the context of public health, including any training programs, resources, or partnerships. Then number 3 is to educate participants on the importance of tech skills in the context of public health and the implications of what the gap is in the sector. Then finally, we want to raise awareness and advocacy about the opportunities and challenges associated with bridging tech skills gap in the public health space. We are hoping that by addressing these 4 objectives, we hope to inspire and empower individuals and organizations to take action in bridging the tech skills gap, ultimately driving positive change in public health. So before we dive into our discussion, let us take a moment to acknowledge our team members that are all here today. We appreciate you, and Ehealth Africa as well. We extend our gratitude for hosting us and the unwavering commitment, of course, to improving public health technology. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we embark on this insightful journey together, let us remember that bridging the tech skills gap is not just an aspiration, it is a necessity. By equipping young Africans with the necessary digital skills, we can empower them to become change makers and problem solvers in our communities. So with that said, I will dive straight into the discussions. Like any good conversation, it is very important to understand the why, right? What are the barriers and challenges that are being faced when trying to bridge the technical skills gap in public health, and how can they be overcome? I'm going to throw this question to Motunrayo. Motunrayo, what do you think are the barriers and challenges being faced when trying to bridge this tech skills gap?
Thank you, Tahir. What a timely discussion to have. The topic is quite key. Bridging the technical skills gap in public health is a very critical issue that requires to really be, addressed and given attention in our time in the 21st century. Because of the importance really that technology plays in public health, not only in service delivery, but also in innovations, and particularly, in how people want to be served and how much efficiency that can be, obviously harnessed within that. Technology, just like anything else, has the potential to transform the public health totally, in ways around data collection, analysis of that data, dissemination of information that's, collated. And, it helps in, for example, diagnosis, how diagnoses are made, supporting disease surveillance. We've had various pandemic, just like the one we just dealt with, come out from COVID. The way we respond to humanity responses to such outbreaks, how we can better, prevent a reoccurrence of previous pandemics, disease prevention, and how we control the efforts in, managing them. So adoption of technology in public health is, in fact, over necessary for effective, public health strategies and interventions, and key attention must be paid into it. The current state of tech skills gap that we, currently in our terrain, there's a significant gap that needs to be, closed in tech skills. In the public health workforce, we see many public health professionals lacking the necessary skills that they require to deliver on their jobs. For example, in data collation, analyzing and interpreting, the data, and general use of technology. And this gap is very inadequate, obviously resulting, due to inadequate trainings and lack of resources that are available to them. So it is important that all stakeholders are brought together. It needs to be dealt with. We need to formulate strategies in breaching these gaps and addressing them. There's need for, targeted and concerted efforts from all stakeholders, you and I, government, the private sector, academia. We need more funding in the sectors to bridge these gaps. And then we'll start seeing the benefits that would result from all of that. And our world will be better.
Thank you so much, Motunrayo. I echo your feedback as to, getting, all of our stakeholders together and trying to address this problem from, a holistic point of view with all of the relevant stakeholders in the tech space. So I'll move to Alhassan. Alhassan, I'm curious as to, your experience. What do you think are the barriers and the challenges that, are, in this space when it comes to these skills that are really critical to be viable in this age?
Thank you, Tahir. Thank you, Motunrayo, for that insightful list that you've provided. So I think I'll just basically add to that. Aside technology, which is basically classified into both software and hardware, basically around the infrastructure. If you talk about public health in Nigeria, most of those key areas that government and other stakeholders are interested in is mostly the remote area. So accessing these areas is really challenging as a result of these barriers. It could be road networks, it could be like technological infrastructures like networks, and the internet and all sorts. So if you want to take public health in tech, then you have to ensure that those infrastructures and all necessary equipment are in place in order to have efficiency in driving those public health innovations. So aside that, one of those things that I think is language barrier, and this is one of the things we've been keen about in All for Tech Foundation, where I currently work. So what we've been trying to do is to have content localized in these languages so that key players, for instance, the healthcare professionals and those guys doing research around health and other innovative areas will be able to communicate with these locals using their languages. So what we've been doing lately is to basically abstract some of these frequently used tech words into local languages so that whenever you are communicating with these people, they'll have an idea of what you mean and how to basically express themselves so that you can get the right data. So aside that, there's also knowledge gap in the areas where people try to explore opportunities in the public health space. So when you talk about public health technologies, you have to start thinking of how you can bring digital skills and equipment. All of this requires some level of expertise. So this could also be a very key barrier to public health issues as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alhassan. I think that was just such a poignant point that you made there in terms of that language barrier. It's definitely one of the big ones, I would say, in in this particular issue. So Jamil, for you, I am wondering, for somebody that, a young person that is looking to perhaps enter this space or gain some software development skills, what do you think are some of the key skills that young people need in order for them to succeed in this age? And how can organizations like EHA really develop these skills further and allow for these young people to practice and contribute, to problems and solving those challenges in their local contexts?
Thank you, Tahir. And can you confirm if you can hear me? I'm struggling with my network. That's why I had to turn off my video.
Loud and clear.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think that would probably be the question that most of the participants would be asking now that you have, shown the importance and, in fact, the necessity of, having the skills. Then how do I start? I think it's important to understand that it's quite a broad field when you say digital skills. So it all depends on, what interest you have. And probably if you're already working, what are the relevant skills? But to just narrow the scope down to the topic at hand, which is mostly around software, I think we can divide the skills into two. There's the front end, and then there's the back end. Of course, this is also keeping in mind that there are other key skills that we can also talk about later, like the data analytics skills. But on the software development side, those two components are what made up the broader perspective of software development, which is the front end. And the front end, this is the skills that allow you to build those interfaces that the end users interface with. And, to keep things simple, of course, there are other, advanced, frameworks and the likes, but the most important, or the basics, which is what we also target in the HA Academy, the HTML and CSS technologies. Once you are able to understand the concept behind these two technologies, which some people argue that are not even programming languages, but rather markup languages. But whatever you want to call them, these are the two technologies that are quite important for whoever is intending to start learning or acquiring such skills. And then on the back end, these are the technologies, that, powers the database where your data is stored, makes that interface that you are interfacing with functional rather than just images. You want to be able to click on a button and then have something happen, whether you are trying to submit a form or you are trying to access an information on a website or on an application. Now the engine that powers that is what we call, or the technologies that allow you to do that is what we call the backend technologies. And also for that one, wanting to keep things simple, I would just say, one can focus on JavaScript or Python. There are definitely many other technologies out there, but even with the JavaScript and Python, there are lots of libraries and frameworks, but not to just, keep throwing all those technologies and to the audience. I think this keeping things simple, and for a start, these are the two key areas, and these are the technologies that you may want to focus on. Just to take them again, for the front end, HTML and CSS, and for the back end, JavaScript and Python. Over.
Thank you, Jamil, for that. So I'll move on to Hamza now. Hamza, as a web developer yourself, one of the key things that I think, people looking to gain these skills are sometimes, given the technical nature of software development, some people tend to drop out, after they have started. What role, how can development opportunities, be leveraged to really, keep students in the program, and also make sure that there are opportunities for mentorship to contribute to bridging this gap. So what do you think is the main issue there, and how can mentorship and professional development processes be leveraged for this?
So thank you very much, Tahir. So to me, I take mentorship in tech very, very important, because that's where we all get started. Of course, we went to university, but the curriculum there at the time that we are in the university is not helping, or is not favorable enough for us to compete in the market. So we move over to the internet and look for other mentorships, or we look for resources that we can learn these skills that we are applying nowadays to solve our daily challenges. So I think mentorship programs is very, very important. And then tailor the mentorship for the tech skills. For example, for me, for someone who is in public health, so focusing on using the technologies is very, very important. For example, let's say, for example, teaching them how to properly use Microsoft Excel alone. It's very, very important for their daily activities, because they can use that Microsoft Excel to gather a lot of data and do some insight with that data. And then we all know that in public health, data is very, very essential. So I think, and then peer-to-peer mentorship is one that I really like. I think we should also look into that. And then internship and apprenticeship program. So the mentorship sometimes is not enough, because we have been doing it for quite a long time now with the Ehealth Academy and Open Source Community Africa, where we will do our best to teach the basics to the participants. But when they want to secure an internship opportunity, we will now realize that thing that we teach them, so it's not enough for them to get that slot for the internship. So, and then one of the key things to make this mentorship opportunity, to make it to work smoothly, is to appreciate the mentors with little talking. Sometimes those mentors all they need is social media thumb-ups, like organizations like ESA. Look at, we have this amazing mentor. This is what they are doing. This is what we are building. And then sometimes it's very good to incentivize the mentors. and then conducting education and workshop. So so in Kano, we have like so many health institutions. So I think it is very, very important that we look into their curriculum and see what they are really missing. For example, I have a sister who is a health practitioner, and this girl doesn't know how to operate a computer, and she asked me, okay, how can I operate a computer? I say, you know what, you buy one, just buy one and start playing around with it. And I like, okay, she said, okay, let's do this. And she gave me money, and I run to market and buy one for her. And I was really amazed to see what she is doing. She Googled almost everything. At some point of time, she even Googled my name, and she sees some funny results. So like, I was really amazed, especially to see the fact that she can play now with, she can create mock-up data in Microsoft Excel, which up to date I cannot do it. And she plays a lot with that data. I was really, really impressed with that. So continuing education workshop in the public health sector is very, very important. Over, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Hamza. I think you've touched on some very important issues. A lot of studies have also shown that in sub-Saharan Africa, education opportunities are limited, and especially those that provide employable tech training. Employable tech training, that is a key word. We have, these courses in our universities and our public institutions, but one of the challenges that we have is African universities are not necessarily prepared with the basics and needed to start a career in tech. So curriculums simply are not sufficient to train students in job-ready programming skills. So I want to throw this question to Jamil, to see like, how do we, what does this collaboration with public health institutions and practicing organizations look like? How can we get our public institutions to really take into account curriculums that will be sufficient enough to train, our students to be able to take up these jobs?
Yeah, and I think this is one thing I always ever raised with the tech meetups whenever I am privileged to attend one of those young tech enthusiast meetups or boot camps. That lack of collaboration, we have, like you mentioned, like Hamza mentioned, there are loads of mentorship programs. We have lots of startup companies and organizations, not only in Kano, but across the country. But then you would hardly see any viable application out there that is, being used at a commercial level. And this is all due to that lack of collaboration. And that's why I always challenge them when I go to those meetups, that aside just bringing together, the tech enthusiasts, we need to also start bringing, the other stakeholders. This includes the academia, the industries, especially now for this particular talk now, the public health sector, because the technology itself is just a tool. What you build it for is even more important. So you just don't start building a solution without having a problem at hand. And the best people to tell you what problem to solve are the people from the industry. So if you have the stakeholders from the public health sector being part of those meetups, bringing on the table the problems they have, and then coming back to validate the solutions those young engineers develop, then you would start seeing us localizing those applications, and that would then start having an impact in our society. And this is the same issue we have in the university. Our universities are operating in silos. If you go to other developed countries, even the projects that students will pick up are actually presented by industries and other organizations, rather than just a student thinking top of his head or with his supervisor what project I should work on, or rather you have a list of projects from different industries that you will work with, and probably you may have to be even visiting those industries to do your requirements elicitation and other business analysis before you start actual coding. A good example is myself. When I was working on my MSc project, I had to be working with about 5 medical doctors. And at one point I was even wondering, am I actually doing computer science or am I doing medicine? So, so that collaboration is what you need. And at the end of the day, what you would see is a more idea, or rather problem tailored solutions and innovations that rather than just what we are building now in silos. Over.
Yeah, that is really critical. So I think I'm also very much excited that Motunrayo is actually with us today, because organizations like Womenovate are in the forefront of bridging the gaps, especially when it comes to the issue of gender, ensuring that our women are also carried along in this issue. We know that according to that report that I had earlier mentioned, the Africa Developer Ecosystem Report, it indicated that women are 12% less likely to have written their first line of coding before turning 18 compared to male developers. So we know that there is evidence showing the gender barrier for women to really be involved in this space. And I believe our cohort number 3 of the EHE Academy was specifically geared towards addressing the issue of balancing that gender, ensuring that more women are taking up these skills. So Motunrayo, I don't know if you can talk about what your organization has really been doing to try to address the gender issue.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Tahir. So one of the strategies, obviously, in ensuring adoption of the strategy to adopting technologies to ensure that it's equitable, and meaning we're reaching all the gender divide, as well as those that normally would not have it. I mean, the gender gap is a global pandemic, so it's not just one that is specific to Nigeria. And we're doing everything we can to try and bridge that gap and close that gap. So Womenovate is an edtech platform doing that here in Nigeria. So we found, so we offer our women resources, and we bring the gender perspective to actual, for example, when companies ask us to resource for them, we bring the gender perspective into it, ensuring that our women, beyond the education and the training, they're matched with jobs. So that's what we tend to do. So, for example, the president spoke 2 days ago, the new president, and we all got a charge of, creation of 1 million jobs gradually. What are we doing? What are you doing? What are we doing to ensure that that objective is one that's met? I think one of the things that needs to be done is readiness to provide those jobs. What are people? We find that demand and supply don't balance. Resources as a subscriber or consumer of resources, I know the challenges that I face. One of the things we do for our women is readiness and matching them to jobs. Beyond the certification or the qualification, there's need for that employability skills. Because you find, a lot of them come out of university, and yet, you don't see the value of that 4 or 5 years that's been spent in there. Again, we have lots of deficit in our curriculum, and there's need to harmonize and actually verify the effectiveness or validness of those curriculum. What I'm trying to say is we need to tie into the skills that are readily relevant in today's time, and ensuring that we're able to access jobs and fit in those roles, backed with our qualification, as well as other developmental things that need to be done. So we tend to do a lot of that, and that needs to carry on, besides the job readiness, the employability skills. Mentoring also matters. So we have a community of women that are being mentored by other women, showcasing them as role models, knowing that they're not alone, they're ready, they have, people readily there to advise and, help them out in their journey, that they're not alone. So basically, we're just trying to ensure that, careers in the STEM sectors is not taboo. You and I, we can all do it. There's coding to tech, there's non-coding roles, So just changing mindset and making resources readily available for them. And gradually we're getting there with collaboration with strategic organizations. I think with EHA, I have actually subscribed to some of your cohort graduates, and we find big, corporates that are now engaging in ensuring that they have diversity within their team, within their workforce. So it's really relevant. It's one of the indices, worldwide standard indices, to show that you're relevant and you're on the right path. So we're trying and doing all that we can to make sure that we're bringing our women, they shouldn't be up to par, just like their male counterparts, and they're open to opportunities that are not gender-based. And, we keep doing that. And like we've rightly touched on, collaboration is very key. We can't be working in silos, networking, engaging, it should be a collective thing, not just, a singular operations. Thank you.
Yeah, those are some very important things. I think as the world sorts of moves, to close this gap, it is critical that we ensure that that gender issue is addressed to ensure equity. Equity is very, very important. It's a key goal for the entire, I think, global community. So we want to make sure that as we are discussing these issues and developing strategies to address them, that gender issue is addressed. So Alhassan, the issue that I want to move on to now, and I really like referring to that Google report because I think it's such a critical review of the African developer space. According to that report, again, still, while more African developers are being hired by local talent, that report also reveals that 38% of African developers are actually hired by companies outside of the continent. So there's this issue of competition. How can local startups that are trying to address local issues and local challenges compete with organizations that are in developed world with all these resources? They obviously, how do we really balance that to make sure that we are still benefiting from, the local talent that we have?
Thank you so much for asking that. This actually really concerns me and my organization and what we do. So at the moment, I would basically use Ehealth as a case study, where I worked as a junior engineer before I, transitioned into the product role. Right. So at a point, our colleagues in the international space, gets more like a higher pay margin compared to we basically working locally. So at the point I started questioning some stuff like, okay, so where are our talents? Where are those guys now? At this point, so what can we really do to basically make things better? Because when you are looking for experienced developers, I can bet you now, at least Jamil is on the call, so he'll be able to tell you that's like finding a needle in a haystack at the moment. So most of the good guys have just one thing in mind now, which is the Japa mentality. So we all Japa, who is going to developer we have currently. So and that is what we are trying to at least do. We feel like the market is still on tap, and there are lots and lots of resources that we can take advantage of. If you check those working in tech space compared to other industries, those guys working in tech get a fair payment even in Nigeria, compared to other guys like in other spaces like the banking sector and other sectors, I don't want to mention the government, So in this regards, like what we can basically do at the moment and what we are doing is like train more people to work on local resources and imbibe them with the mindset that you can actually create value. And once you create value, you become more relevant in the country. So this relevance will make you like think beyond what we have. And it also means that we can create products locally that can compete with the global counterparts. For instance, we have like the Flutter Wave accepting dollar payments. So those guys working in such kinds of organizations could be able to like afford tech guys without really letting them go outside the country. We also have like local NGOs, non-profits that mostly get their grants from international organizations. And most of these billings are basically like, or more like project estimations are done like using such kinds of standards. So if we have talents that could match that kind of standards, then why not? So if you have several opportunities like this, and you have competitive products that could basically compete with similar kinds of products in the international space, then this could be a motivation to keep this kind of talents. So one key takeaway is what? Relevance. Then you think globally. Of course, you have to use your local resources, which our organization sort of supports. So we try to give you everything you have, so all you just need to do is to basically use your own discretion now and innovation to see what you can do for the country and what the country can benefit with other international customers. Over.
It's such an interesting one because balancing that competition with foreign companies that are earning in a superior currency obviously presents a huge challenge for the African development space. So maybe I'll move on to Hamza for just a final question before we take Q&A from our audience. Hamza, as organizations like Ehealth Africa and Womenovate and other organizations are designing strategies and programs to address this gap, one of the important things that we need to address is how to measure impact. How do we really measure the impact of these kind of programs? What metrics do we use to assess the effectiveness of these programs in addressing this particular?
Sorry, Tahir. Please come over.
Yes, I was just talking about measuring impact, right? A lot of organizations in this space are trying to design solutions and programs similar to the EHE Academy, similar to the efforts by Womenovate to try to bridge that gap in terms of access to the education. But an important thing or an important component here is measuring the impact of these kind of programs. What do you think are the key metrics that we should be looking at when we assess the effectiveness of these kind of programs that are trying to address the tech skills gap?
Okay, to me, it's very, very simple. One of the things I really like about measuring impact is the success story. So, success story, you can never underestimate the value of success story because somebody can even get hired with his own success story. Because mentorship is something that I've been doing for quite a long time now. Ever now and then you heard me, okay, hi Hamza, how can I be like you? Or how can my son or my daughter just be like you or even better? So how can you push him to it? So whenever those guys or those people come to me, so I will start by giving them the chance to hear their success story before they even come up. So by knowing by hearing their success story beforehand, so that can give you the opportunity, like, okay, fine, so you should now go through this. I know the kind of resources or the kind of people that I can point to them, so they can accelerate. So one of the things that the former speaker before Alhassan usually got my attention is that how we can bring more women into this. Of course, this thing really bothers me, because some of my classmates back then in the university, so like, okay, Hamza, I know you can do this with your computer, and we are studying the same computer science, but I cannot do it. Perhaps I have even grades than yours. I have good grades than yours. So how can I do this? I said everything is there on the internet, just that you don't use your internet very well. So maybe you focus on viewing Instagram stories and WhatsApp status instead of going through platforms like Camp and all. Literally everything is there on the internet. So the success stories can be very few, like 1% out of 100. Because one of my mentors built one amazing project that I'm really proud of. She looked at our society, which is in education sector, like, why do our Hausa kids hate mathematics? Is it because of usually the math teacher usually come with long koboko? I said no. Like, is it because of, when I told him maybe it's because of the content. Now, take a look at the example. I also have another friend that that graduated from NCE. He studied biology into science, but he didn't know what's Pyrogyra in Hausa until they showed him Pyrogyra practically. He said, what? They should have simply told me this thing in Hausa. I would have understood it much more better. So, like, this girl, okay, saying, okay, how about me develop it with the simple knowledge I have with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript? Let me build a platform and call it Math, where I will try and explain every mathematical concept in Hausa. That is the local content. That's like this kind of success stories. With this kind of success stories, 1 out of 100, you can go wherever you can, and you can achieve some amazing things. Thank you. And I wish I knew the former speaker before this, because we could have come with amazing things, especially during that time that we are doing all-female cohort in the EHA. Thank you. Nice meeting you once again. Sorry if your name. The name. Sorry.
That was such a great example. I think we need to hear more stories like this, because they make such a huge impact in terms of how we think about, gaining skills. Jamil and Motunrayo have their hands up. Jamil?
Yeah, but looking at the time, Tyler, I thought it's only fair. Maybe we might have some questions from the audience. So
Yes. I want to have some time for Q&As as well. So, Motunrayo, maybe quickly, our audience is pleased. You can start sending in your questions to the Q&A, and we'll try to answer them accordingly. Yes, Motunrayo? I think you're on mute, Motunrayo.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes. So I was just actually going to buffer a bit on what Alhassan said, just to add on to what he said about the success stories. Surely we can monitor and track effectiveness through, obviously the statistics we start getting. Gradually, we see gender gaps being closed. For example, now statistics show that for every STEM job, it's a ratio of 4:1 in terms of male to female. We hope to see more female taking on those roles and, careers in STEM, as well as, STEM businesses. So we start seeing, the numbers changing, and that can, the intervention starts from the foundational stage. Having STEM as part of the curriculum from foundation education, changing mindset, the fact that, it's not seen as just a male-dominated, no careers are seen as gender-dominated, encourage both gender to, try out and, be what they want to be. So if a female wants to, do sciences, all fine. If she wants to be an engineer, all fine, So it's from that foundational level, and obviously it stems up, to cultural biases as well. So we'll start seeing with those interventions, advocacy, role models, being out there showcasing, we'll start seeing changes and more female uptake of, STEM careers and businesses. So that adds to the success story. Thank you.
Yeah, great. So I believe we have a very short video for our audience. And it's a testimonial from one of the graduates from the EHA Academy. So help desk, are you guys ready to show the video? Great, play please.
I came across an advert for the EHA Academy course Introduction to Software Engineering on one of their social media platforms. At first, I swiped the post because I felt it wasn't for me since I wasn't from a computer science or engineering background. But then again, I took a look at the requirements and I realized that there was none of such. That made me believe that they must have prepared for people like me who didn't have computer science or engineering background. And since it was a free course, I decided to give it a shot. I applied and I was lucky to get selected to be part of that cohort. We had live sessions, which were fully packed with information. We also had this series of videos to watch on the e-learning platform. And it didn't stop at that. There were also these challenges, assignments we had to submit before set deadlines. It was quite fierce for me because there were all of this information I had to accumulate at once. But then again, it was thrilling and exciting because I could remember my small celebrations when my codes worked or when I was simply able to complete my assignments before the deadline set. By the end of the 3-month course, I had learned most of HTML, CSS, and also basics of JavaScript. Forward to that, I got an offer to intern with the department at EHA, and subsequently, I got an offer to become a full-time staff with the department. The EHA Academy course was the birth of my career as a software engineer. The joy and satisfaction I derive today being part of a team building solutions that would help lives of thousands of people out there is compared to none. As much as being a software engineer is a continuous learning process, the course at the Academy gave me the basics I needed to kickstart my career as a software engineer. Many thanks to all of those people who thought to bring up this program. And I also thank everyone that has put in as much effort or any effort at all to keep this program up and running till date.
Thank you so much. That was our graduate from the Academy. I really loved when she said that, graduating from that academy was the birthplace for her career. I think these are the kind of stories that we see more of. So as we approach the hour, I would like to give our director, GHI, Abdulhamid Yahya, to give us the closing remarks for today. Can you hear us, sir?
Thanks, everyone. Wow, lots of very useful, insightful, and interesting conversations. I would like to say a very big thank you to all, the panelists, the attendees, the partners, the organizing team as well. I think we often forget those type of efforts that is put in to make this type of exercise a success. And I'm glad there was convergence readily. We all seem to agree that digital skills and software engineering skills are crucial, very critical in the economic development of our communities, Nigeria and Africa at large. And I think I want to take some few seconds still to give us some statistics. I think about 230 million jobs in sub-Saharan Africa alone will require some level of digital skills by 2030. That's according to the IFC. And 85% of jobs that will be available in 2030 are not yet invented. And all of them will need some certain aspect of digital or software skills. They will be playing a crucial or critical role. Sub-Saharan Africa has been reported to have the lowest literacy rate as we face a huge digital skills gap. In fact, to buttress that fact, Sudan and Zimbabwe, only 4% of adults can copy and paste files. Can you imagine that? And that's not too different from most other parts of Africa anyway. So it's not, it's quite striking. And current statistics also show that 90% of children in Africa leave school without learning any basic digital skills. So to bridge the digital skills gap in Africa, governments and private stakeholders must be focused on equipping people with the digital skills accordingly. And I am so happy that everybody in this panel and in this room participating in this conversation is taking one step towards helping to bridge this digital skills gap. So please, a big round of applause for ourselves. I think it's a good milestone. And on that note, I would like to sincerely once again appreciate everyone's participation and hope that you do enjoy.
All right, thank you so much, sir. I am trying to see if we have more comments on the chat before we episode of Insights webinar, where we explored the crucial topic of bridging tech skills gap in public health. It has been definitely an enlightening and thought-provoking discussion. I hope that you have all gained a valuable insight and inspiration. So as we conclude this webinar, let us remember that the need for tech skills in the public health is more crucial and critical than ever. We have seen the exponential growth of Africa's software development talent and the increasing demand for these skills globally. So it is our collective responsibility to seize the opportunity and empower individuals to drive transformative solutions in the health sector. I want to express my sincere gratitude to our panelists who have been quite wonderful. Hamza from Open Source Community, Motunrayo, CEO of Womenovate, Alhassan from All for Tech, and Jamil from here at EHA. Your expertise and insights have really been invaluable in shedding light on the importance of bridging the tech skills gap in this public health space. So I also extend my gratitude to our organization for hosting this event, Ehealth Africa. We really appreciate the unwavering support and commitment to leverage technology to better public health in Africa. Our organization is shining, and it is a shining example of what it means to really provide advocacy for relevant issues within the public health space. So finally, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us, our participants, for your active engagement and for joining us on this important conversation. It is through collaboration as shared knowledge that we can create meaningful change in public health. So thank you once again for joining us today.